everyone, Aaron here for zollotech, and many of you have asked me what I think iOS 11 might have in it. And instead of telling you what I think it might have in it, I'm going to tell you what I'd like to actually see within iOS 11. Now, we should see iOS 11 on June 5th of 2017 with the WWDC conference, or Worldwide Developer Conference. That's Apple's time of the year that they show off the next version of iOS. They've done this for years. Then they make the beta available for developers, usually the same day, and then a public beta sometime later, usually up to a month or so. So I thought I'd share with you the top few things I'd like to see within iOS 11. And the first thing is I would like the actual ability to individually lock apps. Right now you can lock the Notes app using Touch ID and your password, and that's it. You can do that in settings, and you can't lock anything else. Now, under settings, there's restrictions where you can actually restrict applications, and those applications can be restricted so that you can only show or not show Apple applications. But in here, you can turn these specific things off. So you can turn off things like FaceTime and AirDrop and CarPlay and other things such as Siri, and in apps, you can change the app ratings, but you can't restrict specific apps or hide apps or lock apps, anything like that. I'd like to see more options in iOS 11 when it comes to that. The second thing I'd like to see is a redesign of the Music app. I really don't like this Music app. I think it looks pretty poor. It just doesn't present anything really well, and unfortunately it just doesn't look great, and I thought that it's time for a redesign, and they really should do something about this Music app. I know they redesigned it with iOS 10, and it was either hit or miss. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm one of the people that I don't really like it, so I think they should change that as well. The third thing I'd really like to see is better backup and restore options. Now currently, and I've done some videos on this, currently the only way to backup and restore is using iCloud and iTunes, and then you restore with a newly set up phone. So that means when you're setting up the phone for the first time, your new one, whatever you're moving to, so say we're moving to an iPhone 8 or whatever's coming next from our iPhone 7s or earlier, what we need to do in order to do that is restore when it's being set up as new. Once you pass that setting up the phone part, you have to actually wipe the phone, go back and start over again. Now with a Mac, you have something called Migration Assistant, and you can actually migrate everything after it's been set up, and that's a much better way of doing it. So say maybe you forgot to move your contacts over, and some of that syncs with iCloud, but maybe you forgot to move your messages over. Well, with a new iPhone being set up already, you can't do that. You have to wipe it and start all over, and it's a big pain. So if you can move that afterwards with a migration assistant, something like that, that would be a much welcome feature, and it would pretty much meet the needs of many people. A fourth thing I'd like to see changed is a new notification screen. The notifications on iOS 10, they sort of split up like widgets here, and to me it just looks not very nice. It's split up like these widgets are instead of being clumped together, and it just looked a lot cleaner to me in previous versions. In iOS 11, I'd like to see them change that back, and I know a lot of you have complained about this as well, and hopefully they do something about that and maybe group them better. And honestly, this is one where they need to actually look at what Android has done and do something similar, because they've pretty much done that right. So it'd be great to see them do that in iOS as well. Another thing I'd like to see them change is the Mail app. Now, Mail is pretty good overall. It does the function that it's meant to do. It gets mail, but there's just some things that it's not great at. It stores too much mail, or it doesn't fetch mail properly, and there's just some things that are broken between it and Gmail sometimes, so I use Inbox as my separate Gmail app. It's just not very great when it comes to certain things. When it comes to search, it does a pretty good job, but other things it doesn't. So I'd like to see not maybe a full redesign, but definitely some revisions to this one, and especially to the Mac side as well, even though we'll probably see that on the same day as well. This is something that I don't know that I necessarily want, but so many of you have looked forward to this, and a dark mode. A dark mode, I'm not really sure what that would mean, because dark mode on macOS really doesn't do a whole lot. It just kind of makes the menu at the top dark and darkens the dock a little bit and leaves all the text white. So most of the time on iOS, you're within an app, and the app itself could be dark, just like this one. But if you're in something such as news, maybe this would be dark instead. So it's hard to say what specifically would be, shown in a dark mode. I'm not really sure, but many of you have wanted that, and I'd like to see what Apple's implementation of that would be. Maybe they would do something in music where this is darkened. It'd be nice to see what they had and maybe give you some options as well. I'd also like to see an updated control center with widgets or 3D touch widgets. So here's Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. I'd like to be able to 3D touch on Bluetooth and change between different sources or have a quick connect there. And I'd like to be able to do the same on Wi-Fi. There's some things that you can do with 3D touch here with the calculator or camera, but you just can't do anything with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. And I think they could easily add that. I also prefer this command center full screen like it was before. I just think it looks better. That's just my preference, but it's just something I thought looks a little bit better on the previous version. Maybe they'll tweak the design this time around. We don't really know. Second to last, I think they need to do something with the App Store. The App Store, while it works okay, it's very hard to find things. The search doesn't work well. You could be searching for this game right here, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and it may not even show anything. So you might be able to go to Roller Coaster, and you'll get Roller Coaster Tycoon, so it works on this one, but then you'll get something that's not even really the same thing. Sometimes you'll get weird apps, and other times you will get a match. It's just hit or miss, and I know they've been improving this over time, but they really need to tweak it and make it easier to find certain types of apps. I know the top charts a lot of people use, but these don't change a whole lot, so I'd like to be able to see some better apps or app recommendations like they used to do. I'd like to see some better ones. And lastly, the last thing I'd like to see personally is I was never a huge fan of the flat design icons. So the weather icon, the Safari icon, when they switched over from iOS 6 to this style icon, I was always for a different style icon. I would like to see these tweaked a little bit. They have tweaked news over time. I think the Photos app is probably my favorite icon that they created. But really at this time, I think they need to change that up and make that a little bit better. I think I'd like to see a stylized overview or kind of refresh of stylized design throughout the whole operating system. That's just me. I know a lot of people like it. It's very subjective to what specific design you like. There are some other people that I've talked to that say that they'd like to see animations improved. They like to see app closing and opening improved. I actually personally don't have an issue with that. I think the animation is basically the perfect speed right now. I have no issues on an iPhone 7 Plus anyway with that opening and closing speed. But there are people that may want to see something different there. Also, people have told me they'd like to be able to remove the blur on the bottom here with the dock so that you could see the full wallpaper at once, although they would need to do something to separate the dock area from the rest of it so that you can actually differentiate what's in the dock. So, or maybe just change it overall altogether. I'm not really sure, but that's something other people have brought up. And also changing the color of messages within messages, and instead of being green and blue, maybe you could make them red or yellow or whatever you'd like. Just have that ability to customize a little bit more. Same goes for the keyboard. People have said they want to actually change the keyboard as well. Those aren't my specific things that I'd like to see the most, but those were suggested by some viewers, and those are things that I think all of those people, I'm sure, would be happy to have options and choice. I'd love to hear what you specifically have to say about the wants and needs that you want in iOS 11. Let us know in the comments below what would be your top 5 things that you'd like to see changed in iOS 11, and I'd love to hear what you have to say regarding that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.